Back with us on the Washington Journal, it's four-term Congressman and Illinois Democrat Sean Casten. Congressman Casten, want to start with that story that's getting a lot of attention today out of The Atlantic on the Trump administration accidentally texting a reporter its war plans for an attack in Yemen. What are your thoughts on that story, sir?
Extremely concerned. This is a massive security breach that really starts with the fact that you have people at the highest levels in the White House, all the way up to the vice president, who seem to be completely unaware of basic security protocols, that you do not have conversations about classified information outside of a SCIF, you don't have those conversations on unsecured devices, and you certainly don't have them with people who don't have a security clearance. That's, all of that is beyond, the substance of the text, which, from what's been released, are juvenile, to put it mildly. But I think all of us have to wonder, how many other signal texts like this are there? It doesn't seem that, like, J.D. Vance is in this text thread. Why does he never stand up and say, guys, this is completely inappropriate? I'm in the White House. We are responsible for national security. Get your act together. Why do we have people at the running the Defense Department who are not saying that? And we've got a lot of questions to ask, but this is a massive breach of protocol. And that breach of protocol raises the question of whether there's also been a massive breach of security.
Mike Waltz, the National Security Advisor, a former colleague of yours, sat on the other side of the aisle. What should happen? Should he keep his job?
Look, in normal times, every one of these people should resign. If we had a Trump White House that gave a damn about national security, they would be firing them. If we had a Republican House that thought that they had a responsibility to do any oversight, they would be screaming about this. The fact that they are silent this morning speaks volumes about their character, but it says nothing about the stakes of this moment.
And we'll hear from more on this topic from some of those who are the leaders of the national security infrastructure in this country. A Senate hearing on worldwide threats today. That's happening at 10 a.m. Eastern. Viewers can watch it right after this program on C-SPAN 3. CIA Director John Ratcliffe will be there. FBI Director Kash Patel will be there. Sean Casten, if you were there and able to ask a question, what would you ask?
I think the tone that I think you want to look for in there is, if there's a tone of defensiveness that this is normal, we have a huge problem. The tone you'd like to see is that they come out there and say, this is a massive breach, we are working to fix this, we want to work closely with congressional oversight to make sure that this barn door is closed. I think in between, it'll be interesting to see if they try to throw one person under the bus and make this go away. Sometimes that happens in Washington of trying to take a political head. That's halfway between, but that doesn't close the ultimate barn door. I think what I would hope that the senators, and of course there's House hearings on this later this week as well, I think you really want to find out, we need total candor with the House. Was this a one-time event, or are there other signal threads that are going on? How are they vetting these things? Why is this information not contained to a SCIF? What are you doing to close that barn door and make sure this never happens again? And is there any sense from the principals that they know that they massively messed up and have their tail between their legs and are ashamed of what they did and will make sure this never happened again? Because if they don't have that, we've got ongoing problems.
Congressman Sean Casten with us until the top of the hour. It's 9 a.m. Eastern this morning, so go ahead and get your calls in. Phone lines as usual, Democrats, Republicans, and Independents. We'll put those numbers up on the screen for you. Let me shift gears, Congressman, off Capitol Hill and in your district last week. You held a town hall. It had to be shut down by police eventually. What happened?
So I've done about a town hall a week since Donald Trump has been elected, and there's just this tremendous hunger in society. I represent a very purple district. Kamala won my district by 3 points. This is not a place that is, it's right down the middle of the fairway. But the overwhelming sentiment at these 5 town halls I've done is somewhere between fear and anger at what's happening in the Trump White House. What are we doing to make sure that we defend our Constitution, defend our laws? What can people do about it? And we went into that town hall really expecting the same, and that was certainly where the room was wanting us to go. There were a small number of people who were very concerned about the situation in Gaza, who essentially hijacked the town hall and started screaming and yelling and would not let any other questions happen. The police were working constructively to remove people as they became, so that we could try to get back to normal. And ultimately, we got to a point where most of the audience was sufficiently upset with the protesters that the police were concerned there would be larger violence, and the police, we started with one officer there. We had 4 by the time that ultimately they shut down, and the police said, we're taking people off other duty stations, and this is now a public security risk. And the whole thing just makes me sad. I have never done a town hall where everybody agreed with me, because I've never won 100% of the vote. But there's sort of a sacredness to the town hall space where you expect that people will come, express their opinions in a place where they know that they will be heard, that they will be respected, and they will be engaged with constructively. And if we can't have that, it doesn't make society better.
Just to show viewers what it was like last week for you, we've got about, it's 40 seconds or so of a video from your town hall last week. Let me show it to viewers now.
Show some respect for the people in this district.
What you're saying is I'm not going to get my way when my people are being slaughtered, and I want you to stop funding them.
If you would like to run for office, run for
That
office.
That is the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You are the most soulless piece of crap I've ever seen.
That's your opinion.
Soulless. Soulless.
Sir, get off the get off the stage right now.
I guess for dealing with these kinds of situations at town halls, and is this going to impact you doing more town halls in the future?
We're absolutely not going to stop doing town halls. I think it's particularly important in this moment that we have those spaces to talk. I do think, frankly, it creates a challenge where we're going to have to work more closely with law enforcement than we have before. We've always notified them, but I think we want to make sure that local law enforcement is comfortable in any given situation, that the act of a town hall is not creating a situation where there might be some public safety concerns. And I hate that we have to do that, but I don't want to put my constituents in harm's way, and I certainly don't want to put the police in a situation where they're having to pull resources just to create an event that we're manufacturing. So what that means as far as the mix and the security we're working through, I wish we didn't have to do it, and I hope that ultimately, all of our constituents come back to where they have been for my first 6 terms, of realizing that there is something sacred and necessary about having these town halls where people come together, especially in the world we live in that's increasingly fragmented. We need those public spaces where there's public, respectful discourse.
And just to stay on this for a second, there's plenty of your colleagues who don't hold town halls, or they'll hold the tele-town halls where you can set up a line of people to make their comments and have somebody monitor that and put them in order on the telephone. What's been the reaction from your colleagues? What have they told you as they've seen what happened here at your town hall last week?
So to be clear, there's a place for telephone town halls and in person. We've always done a mix. You get a much bigger number of constituents who are able to participate in a telephone town hall. Obviously, not everybody has the ability to travel. You can't always get a big enough room. So I think it's appropriate to do a mix. I think there is a handful of my colleagues who have had these kind of disruptions before and are also concerned. For the most part, I think it's one thing to have people who disrupt and disagree with you, and that's fine. All of us expect that, but you expect that person to sit down afterwards and allow the next person to ask their question. So we'll see how it goes, but my view is that all of us in public office, and I think this is shared with many of my colleagues, think it's important to continue having these events and to be in person, to make sure that people know that we as the representative branch are there to represent and to understand their perspectives, and to make sure that they understand how we're balancing all the equities, because of course we're never going to make everybody happy, but we want to make sure that we hear from everybody as best we can.